The city breathed its night air, a mix of cold wind and distant sirens. Lena Costa moved through it like a ghost. She was a woman who practiced being invisible. Her steps were quiet, her coat was a plain gray, and her eyes, a soft shade of brown, rarely lifted from the pavement. To anyone looking, she was just a nurse finishing a long shift, heading home to a small, quiet apartment. But Lena was hiding. She lived under a name that was not her own, in a life that was not her own. She found comfort in the steady rhythm of her work at the city hospital, in the beep of heart monitors and the smell of clean sheets. There, she could be someone helpful, someone good. It was a small light in a world she feared. Tonight the walk home felt longer. Her shoulders ached. She was just a few blocks from her building when the night tore open. A loud boom shook the street. Windows rattled in their frames. Up ahead, an orange light bloomed, fierce and sudden, painting the dark buildings in a hellish glow. A warehouse was on fire. People spilled onto the street, shouting, pointing. Lena's feet froze to the spot. Every instinct in her body screamed at her to run the other way, to go home, to lock her door and hide. Getting involved was dangerous. It meant being seen. It meant talking to police. But then her training kicked in. Someone could be hurt. Her legs, as if with a mind of their own, began to run toward the heat and the chaos. The heat from the fire was a physical wall. Smoke stung her eyes. She could hear the crackle of hungry flames eating the old building. Police cars and fire trucks wailed in the distance, but they were not here yet. That was when she saw it. A movement. A dark shape slumped near a shattered side door, half hidden by a pile of fallen boxes. It was a man. He was not moving. He was big, with broad shoulders, and he lay in a way that was not natural. One side of his dark jacket was torn and wet with something darker. Blood. Lena did not think. She ran to him, her nurse's mind taking over. She knelt, the pavement hot through her thin pants. She pressed 2 fingers to his neck, searching for a pulse. It was there, a weak, thready flutter against her fingertips. He was alive, but he would not be for long if she left him here. "Help me," she whispered, but her voice was lost in the roar of the fire. No one was coming. Gritting her teeth, she grabbed him under his arms. He was impossibly heavy, a dead weight of muscle and bone. She pulled with all her strength, her muscles burning. She dragged him inch by painful inch away from the burning building, across the rough asphalt, into the relative safety of a dark alley across the street. She collapsed beside him, gasping for air. Her hands were scraped raw. Her nice coat was ruined, smeared with soot and blood. But he was safe from the flames. In the flickering light she could see his face. It was strong, with a sharp jawline now slack with unconsciousness. Even like this, there was a power to him that made her shiver. Her eyes dropped to his hands. They were large, and on the knuckles of one she saw the dark lines of tattoos. Letters she could not read. This was not a simple man. This was someone who lived in a world of violence. Sirens grew louder. Red and blue lights began to paint the street. Help was almost here. A cold fear, sharper than any she had felt before, washed over her. She stayed. She would have to talk. She would have to give her name. Her face would be in a report. Her careful, invisible life would be over. She looked down at the man. She had done what she could. She had saved his life. Now she had to save her own. With one last look she stood. Her heart hammered against her ribs. She turned her back on the injured man, on the sirens and the lights, and she melted back into the shadows from which she came. She disappeared before the first policeman could call out, leaving behind only the memory of her face in the mind of a man who would never ever forget it. Weeks drifted by, each day a careful copy of the last. Lena went to work, she came home, she locked her door. She tried to bury the memory of the fire and the man in the quiet rhythm of her routine. But the peace was broken. A low, constant hum of fear had taken root inside her. She jumped at slamming doors. Her eyes scanned every crowded room. The first real sign came on a Tuesday. A black car, sleek and expensive, was parked across from her apartment. It had no reason to be there in this neighborhood of old sedans and delivery trucks. It was there the next day and the next. She never saw anyone get in or out. It was just a presence, a silent, watchful eye. At the clinic, the feeling grew worse. Walking to the break room, she would turn a corner and feel a prickling on the back of her neck, sure someone had just been watching her. But the hallway was always empty. Her hands began to shake as she sorted supplies. Paranoia was a vine twisting tight around her chest. The end of her shift came. She pushed the heavy clinic door open, stepping into the cool evening air, desperate for the walk home. And then she froze. The black car was here. It was idling at the curb right in front of the clinic. This time the door was open. A man stepped out. He was tall, wearing a perfectly tailored dark coat. He moved with a calm, easy power that made the busy street seem to slow down. He turned and Lena's breath caught in her throat. It was him. The man from the fire. But he was not broken and bleeding. He was whole and he was terrifying. His face was healed, all sharp angles and authority. His eyes, a dark and piercing shade, found hers and held them. He looked at her as if he knew every secret she had ever tried to hide. He walked toward her, each step measured and sure. He stopped just a few feet away, his presence blocking out the rest of the world. The noise of the city faded to a distant hum. He looked at her for a long moment, his gaze tracing the features he had clearly memorized from that one night. Then he spoke, his voice low and certain. "You saved me once," he said. "Now it is my turn." His name was Dante Moretti. He said it not as an introduction but as a statement of fact. A name that held weight. He did not ask. He simply took over. Two quiet, serious men appeared. They were not introduced. They became her shadows, driving her to her apartment, standing watch outside her door. When she went to work, one of them followed, sitting in the waiting room like a stone statue. Her small, plain apartment was suddenly filled with new things. A sophisticated alarm system she did not want. New, stronger locks on the door. It was a cage, built with the finest materials, but a cage all the same. She tried to argue. "This is too much. I do not need this." Dante's answers were always calm and final. "The men who tried to kill me are still out there. They saw you. You are not safe. This is necessary." One morning, a friendly young man at the coffee shop smiled at her and made a joke. Lena managed a small, nervous smile back. The next day he was gone. A new, much older and much quieter man was working in his place. When she asked, the new man just shook his head and looked away. Lena felt a chill that had nothing to do with the weather. This was not protection. It was possession. That evening, Dante came to her apartment. He did not knock. He simply let himself in as if he owned the place. He sat at her small table and looked at her. "I know your name is not really Lena Costa," he said quietly. He did not sound angry or threatening. He sounded sure. "I know why you are hiding." Lena's heart felt like ice. He knew. The one power she had, her secret, was gone. He looked around her small, bare apartment, then back at her. "The world you are hiding from is far less dangerous than the one you are in now. Let me protect you from it." Days turned into a strange new routine. Dante was often there, a constant, unsettling presence in her life. He was not what she expected. He was quiet. He read books with worn covers. He spoke with a sharp intelligence that surprised her. One night, he was in her living room, standing by the window and looking down at the city. The silence between them was heavy. "Everyone wants something," he said, his voice cutting through the quiet. He did not turn to look at her. "My whole life. A favor. Money. Power. Fear." He was silent for a moment. "When I woke up in that alley, I was confused. I thought I had been captured. Then I remembered a face. A woman's face, calm and kind in the firelight. You asked for nothing. You just gave. You just helped. And then you vanished." He finally turned. His dark eyes were intense, but there was a raw honesty in them she had never seen before. "I have never known someone who did not have a price," he said. "Until I met you." Lena's heart ached. Her healer's soul reached out to the lonely boy she heard in his voice. But the woman who valued her freedom pulled back in fear. This confession was not just words. It was a chain wrapping around her, binding her to him with a tie far stronger than any lock on her door. He saw her as his one pure thing in a dirty world, and she knew with a sinking feeling that a man like Dante Moretti would never, ever let his one pure thing go. The fragile peace shattered on a rainy Thursday. Lena was walking to the grocery store, one of Dante's men a few steps behind her, when a different car, low and loud, swerved to the curb. A man leaned out, his face hard. He looked right at her, his eyes locking onto hers with a terrifying purpose. Before he could move, Lena's guard was there. He shoved her behind him, his own body a shield. There was a shout, a scuffle, and the car sped away with a screech of tires. It was over in seconds. She was rushed back to her apartment, shaking. Dante arrived minutes later. His calm was gone, replaced by a cold, still fury that was somehow more frightening. He asked her what she saw, his voice like chips of ice. She told him, her own voice a whisper. The next day, one of his men came to her and told her, in a flat, emotionless tone, that the man from the car would never bother anyone again. Lena felt the blood drain from her face. She knew what that meant. She found Dante in the living room, staring out the window as if he could see the whole city laid out before him. "What did you do?" she asked, her voice trembling. He turned slowly. He did not look sorry. He looked certain. "I removed a problem." "You are a monster," she whispered, the words falling into the quiet room. A shadow crossed his face, but he did not deny it. "The world is full of monsters, Lena. I am just the one who owns you." The words were final, sealing her in a truth she could not escape. The man who had shared his pain was gone, and the King of Shadows had returned. That night Lena made a choice. She could not live like this, caged and causing harm to anyone who came near her. She had to run. She waited until the early hours, when the guard outside her door was at his least alert. Using a trick she learned from an old patient, she jammed the lock on her bedroom window so it would not sound the alarm. She slipped out, dropping silently into the alley below. Her heart was a wild bird in her chest as she ran. She did not know where she was going, only that it was away. She used back streets and subway tunnels, her gray coat helping her blend into the dim light. But Dante's city was a web and he was the spider at its center. It did not take long for him to find her. She was hiding in an all-night laundromat, trying to catch her breath, when the black cars surrounded the building. He stepped out of the lead car alone. He walked toward her, his steps echoing in the silent street. His face was not angry. It was pale, his eyes wide with a raw, panicked fear she had never seen in him before. He did not grab her. He just stood there, his voice rough with emotion. "You are the only clean thing in my life," he said, the words a desperate confession. "The only good thing. I will burn the world to the ground before I let you go." In that moment she saw not a monster, but a man who was desperately, hopelessly lost, and she was his only map. She went back with him without a fight. Something had shifted. The war he had warned her about was no longer a distant threat. A rival family, the Volkovs, was making its move, challenging Dante's control. They moved her to a new place, a stark, secure apartment high above the city. It felt more like a bunker than a home. Dante was different here. He was constantly on the phone, his voice low and commanding. She saw the weight of his crown, the heavy burden of his power. He looked tired. One of his men, a young one named Marco, was brought in. He had been hurt in a fight, a deep cut on his arm. He was trying to be brave, but his face was white with pain. Without a word, Lena went to the bathroom and got the first aid kit Dante kept there. She knelt beside Marco and began to clean the wound. Her hands were steady, her touch gentle. Dante watched from the doorway, his intense eyes following her every move. She stitched the cut with neat, precise movements, the same way she would for any patient. When she was done, she looked up and saw the look on Dante's face. It was not possession or even gratitude. It was a deep, wondering respect. She was not just a thing to be protected. She was strong. And in his world of darkness, she had just become a different kind of light. The safe house was no longer a prison. It became a command post, and Lena found her place in it. When another of Dante's men came in clutching his side, he went straight to her, not out of orders but out of trust. She cleaned the wound, her hands calm and sure. Dante watched her, his usual intense stare now mixed with something new, a deep, quiet pride. He no longer tried to hide the harsh truths of his world from her. He would talk to her after a long day, his voice heavy. He told her about the Volkov family's cruelty, about the people they hurt. He was not trying to scare her. He was trying to make her understand why he had to fight. One night the tension broke. The Volkovs launched an attack on the building. The sound of shattering glass and loud shouts filled the air. Dante shoved her into a safe room, his body blocking the door. "Do not come out," he ordered, his eyes blazing. But Lena heard the fight outside, the cries of pain. When the noise died down, she crept out. She saw one of Dante's men on the floor, bleeding badly. Dante was locked in a struggle with a large attacker. The attacker was winning, his hands around Dante's throat. Lena did not scream. She looked around, her eyes landing on a heavy fire extinguisher on the wall. She ran to it, her heart pounding, and with all her strength she swung it. It hit the attacker in the side with a solid thud. He grunted in surprise and pain, his grip loosening for just a second. It was all Dante needed. He broke free and finished the fight. He stood there breathing hard and looked at her. He did not see a victim he had to save. He saw a partner who had just saved him. In the quiet after the storm they found each other. Their kiss was not gentle. It was a desperate, hungry thing, full of fear and hope and the raw truth that they were two lost souls clinging to each other in the dark. The final confrontation came quickly. Dante's men had cornered Alexei Volkov, the man who had ordered the warehouse fire. He was trapped in a warehouse by the docks, the same place where this had all begun. Dante was ready to end it. His plan was simple and brutal. He would go in and he would not come out until Volkov was gone forever. It was the way of his world, the only language men like them understood. Lena stood in front of the door, blocking his path. "Do not do this," she pleaded, her voice steady though her hands shook. "If you do this, you become exactly what he is. There is no coming back from that." "This is who I am, Lena," he said, his face like stone. "This is the world I live in." "No," she said, her eyes filled with tears. "It is the world you choose to live in. I see the man you could be. The good man buried under all this darkness. Please, choose him. Choose us." Dante looked at her, at the woman who had pulled him from fire twice now. He saw the love in her eyes, a love that asked for nothing but for him to be better. He was torn in two, caught between the monster he knew how to be and the man she believed he could become. The fate of his soul hung in the balance, and Lena was the only one who could tip the scales. Dante made his choice. He did not kill Alexei Volkov. Instead, he handed him over to the authorities, along with a mountain of evidence of his crimes. It was a different kind of power move, one that broke all the old rules. It secured his place not through fear but through cunning. He was still a powerful man, but he had taken his first step onto a new path. A week later he stood with Lena in her old apartment. The city was quiet outside. "I love you, Lena," he said, his voice quiet and sure. "I love you too much to keep you in a cage. The door is open. You can walk away. You can have your old life back and I will make sure you are safe in it. But if you choose to stay," he continued, looking deep into her eyes, "you choose all of me. The man I was and the man I am trying to be. There will still be shadows." Lena looked at him. She saw the Mafia boss, feared and powerful. But she also saw the lonely boy from his stories, and the man who had chosen mercy for her. His love was not simple or safe, but it was real. It was a dangerous love, built in fire and sealed in choice. She thought of her quiet, invisible life. It felt small and empty now. It held no light, no purpose, no him. She did not say a word. She simply reached out and took his hand, lacing her fingers with his. It was not the grip of a prisoner, but of a partner. Together, they turned and walked out of the apartment, leaving her old life behind. They stepped into the hallway, into their future, a future that was uncertain and shadowed, but one they would face side by side. I hope you enjoyed this journey into Lena and Dante's dangerous, passionate world. If this story captured your heart, please follow my channel for more tales of love, redemption, and the shadows where light dares to shine.